favorite radio station.
This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.
Hey everybody, you are now tuned into The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture. Blacked out by the majority on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station, with your girl, Tequila. Today's special guest is board-certified orthopedic surgeon of Premier Spine Institute, Dr. Bonventure Gu, MD. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being patient with us this morning and being here. So, first off, let's just say thank you for coming to the station and allowing us to highlight your excellence within the community.
My pleasure.
If you could please introduce yourself and tell us your background growing up in Cameroon, West Africa.
My name is Bonventure Gu, and I'm orthopedic spine surgeon with my office based out of the Woodlands in Texas. I grew up in the beautiful West African nation of Cameroon, and I've been in the United States for over 25 years now. And I had a wonderful upbringing in a very diverse and beautiful culture, and I've learned so much growing up in Cameroon, and I've learned so much being in the United States.
Absolutely. And so what was the experience like transitioning to the United States and having the opportunity to attend and graduate from the University of Maryland School of Medicine in Baltimore?
The transition wasn't too difficult for me. I did part of my elementary education in Santa Monica, California, before going back home where I did my college training, and then I transitioned to Howard University. I got my first degree in electrical engineering at Howard University, and that really gave me a foundation. Being a HBCU,
yes,
I felt well grounded and well connected to my brothers from across the Caribbean and the United States. So from after I got my first degree at at Howard University, I went on to do my medical education at the University of Maryland.
Absolutely. And so, speaking of HBCU, because I went to Prairie View A&M University, how was that experience being able to go to a school that was culturally founded for the Black experience?
It was beyond amazing. I immediately, upon my arrival, I felt at home, made wonderful friends, and the professors, the students, the faculty and staff were all so welcoming. I felt I was home.
Absolutely. And so your institute offers several, well, not several services, but you do offer several services. You also have several locations as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
One being in the Woodlands. So the Premier Spine Institute, what was so imperative about it for you to not just own a practice, but to build that ownership while being here in the United States?
When I started my career, I was in a practice before, and unfortunately things didn't work out that well. The group went under, so I decided to open my own practice, and I wanted to have a better control of and a vision for my practice to see where it was going, and to have a direct influence on and shape the delivery of healthcare in the community where I lived.
And so having that ownership, what were some things that you were able to learn within the process, and just being able to help others where you come from learn about having ownership too?
It's a lot of hard work, patience, and a lot of paperwork.
Absolutely.
Something I didn't like doing, but I think having the foremost goal of delivering quality care all the time, taking care of every patient and treating them as family will help you get established in the community, and it will grow by word of mouth. It will grow organically. It will grow slowly but surely if you're doing the right thing. So patience is key.
Absolutely. And again, back to your services that you offer, they range from back pain, pain management, herniated discs, pinched nerves, laser spine surgery, and just so many more. How does each service help your patients with individual joint pain, and how does it also help them restore back to their healthy state?
I think the care I provide for each patient is tailored to their particular disorder and their particular need. Everybody is different, but generally taking care of patients with disorders of the cervical, thoracic, or lumbar spine, there's some general principles we normally follow. So we always start with the most conservative approach first. 90% of the patients who see me would fully recover with conventional treatments such as physical therapy and medications without them having to undergo surgery. However, there is a small group of patients who may fail conservative therapies and may end up requiring to undergo surgery, and there are different types of procedures we perform to get the patients back to full health.
Absolutely. And if you could kind of just give us some sort of definition of what a spinal injury actually results in, or what happens when it occurs.
So for the most part, most people suffer from a degenerative condition that happens over time, unlike trauma, which is an acute event. So the most common problems we see, someone might come in with a back pain, and that can be a host cause of back pain, but the most common cause is pain originating from the disc starting to degenerate. So as we grow older, unfortunately, there's some changes that occurs in our body. So now in your lower back, there are structures that protect the spinal canal, and you have your lumbar vertebrae. In between your lumbar vertebrae, we have the disc that provides some kind of cushion and support. As we get older, that disc begins to degenerate, and during that process, the disc may herniate and hit a nerve, and we complain of back pain and sciatica. Sometimes the disc may degenerate, you have bone spurs, and the spinal canal may narrow, and it's a condition called lumbar stenosis. Basically, you come in with pain in your back, pain going down to your buttocks, and eventually may have pain and burning sensation going down both legs or one of your legs, and that might start gradually and progress to the point where you are not able to function properly, and you may want to seek care with either your primary care doctor, your chiropractor, and eventually may end up in my office. We get x-rays, we examine you, eventually we get an MRI to have a closer look to see what's going on within your spinal canal and the lumbar vertebrae and the lumbar disc, and from there we can deduce what kind of treatment options you will need.
Demographically, what age are your patients usually the ones that come in and have the most issues with their back pain?
I typically see patients from the age of 18 up to 100.
Because I know a lot of people that play professional, like football, they start off at a young age. I know they have a lot of back issues, a lot of head issues. So those are things that can acquire even at a young age. And at 18, you can pretty much ruin your back.
The younger patients I see is more from acute injuries from playing sports, and then the older patients I see is more degenerative conditions that have been going on for years, to the point that they just give up and want to have treatment eventually.
Yeah. So while attending the University of Maryland, you completed your residency at the center's Shock Trauma Center. What stimulated you to primarily focus on the complex composition of the spine, spinal injuries, and disorders?
When I was my background is electrical engineering, and I enjoy working with my hands. And having the background in electrical engineering, when I went to medical school, I was trying to find out what field could align my background to my interest, and I found out that spine surgery, the spinal cord is like a electric tube, sends electric signals from your brains and it ends up in your muscles, controlling them. So the way I look at it is like you have a motor, and you have electric cords coming out from there and going to your muscles to function as to the muscle groups to function as a motor end unit. So it's kind of like it's an electric field with electrical engineering background. So that was a natural response for me to gravitate towards that field. That made more sense to me.
Oh wow! So what were you intending on doing with the electrical engineering degree before medical?
I had no idea. When I came to the US, my parents told me that you have to be an engineer.
Okay.
So getting my first degree, I was like, what do I really like to do? I'm like, you know what? I want to go to medical school. I enjoyed taking care of people. And once I was in medical school, there were a whole host of different subspecialties to specialize in. And orthopedic surgery in general was very challenging, but at the same time, it's very rewarding. You could see someone with a broken bone, you fix them, and they resume their life back. So it was a kind of immediate satisfaction you get from taking care of someone acutely. So that was very appealing to me.
Absolutely. And now everybody speaks of STEM being such an important program for kids to learn, and they have that in my son's school. Why do you feel like programs such as STEM is such a great positive reinforcement to get kids to learn more about math and science?
Science is an amazing field, and I think the earlier you introduce kids into what science can do, how that can relate to what they do, how does the iPhone work, how does YouTube work, how do those things work, what do you need to be how do the engineers program all those apps, coding? Once they begin to see how that can be done at an early age, then they begin to realize that there's so much in the scientific field that affects their life on a daily basis. And the more they get in tune to that, the more changes they can grow up and become the next Bill Gates and make so much changes for us.
Have you had the opportunity yourself to work with any kids in the community when it comes to STEM?
No, in my practice, what we do is kids in high school, middle school to high school, during the summer months, they come to my practice and they shadow me. And it's amazing when you take them to the operating room and they see the human body and the questions they ask. And it's an amazing experience. For about 2 weeks, they shadow me, and when they go home, some of them say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an anesthesiologist. But the eyes, just exposing them means so much to them, and it's a rewarding feeling for me.
Absolutely. And although you are an orthopedic spine surgeon, you actually support the least invasive therapies that you mentioned earlier to minimize trauma to healthy body tissue. What are those techniques most beneficial to your patients, and how do they help their overall healing process?
I'm a firm believer in physical therapy, and most of the time people come in with back pain, pain in their neck or pain going down their arms. The first therapy is we send them to a physical therapist. They can do massage, they can do cervical traction, lumbar traction, they can do isokinetic muscle strengthening exercises, applications of 10 units, ionophoresis. There's so many things that can be done non-surgically to get people back on their feet.
Do you feel like pharmaceuticals are necessary in the process of healing pain, or do you think you should focus more on physical?
They are necessary, but I think opioids have unfortunately been abused by doctors over the years, and patients have become so dependent on it. So there are very great medications that can be used that are non-opioids that can do an effective job.
Absolutely. Well, I want to finish talking more about your practice and all the things that you work for with the spinal injuries, but we got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will return with our show. Until then, you are listening to The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture on Afro Vibes Radio with your girl, Tequila. Hey everybody, you are now tuned back into The Blackout, where we always shine a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture on Afro Vibes Radio with your girl Tequila. And we are currently still in the studio with Dr. Bonventure Gu. Again, thank you so much for highlighting some of the amazing things that you do in the community. You mentioned allowing the kids to come through in the summertime and really adapt to the STEM programs, the different physical therapies that can be used. So I want to hop back into it. You're also a member of the Less Society, correct? And tell us about this organization also promoting that less exposure surgery and those procedures that have assisted you in your practices.
Well, historically, spine surgery has evolved over time. There's now minimal invasive spine surgery, legs exposure spine surgery. Basically, what that means is that we're using smaller incisions to get the job done. So by using robots and using x-ray techniques, we're able to do surgeries in less time, less blood loss, achieve the same goals, get people back home faster. Back in the 80s, 90s, people used to undergo spine surgery, would be in the hospital for a week, 2 weeks, and be wearing braces for 2 weeks up to 6 weeks. But now we're able to achieve the same type of surgery in less time. Patients go home the same day or the next day. They don't have to wear braces for some of the cases, and the blood loss is way smaller, and their recovery, getting them back to work at a faster pace. So spine surgery has really evolved over time, and it's an amazing time to be a spine surgeon.
And alongside of these supporting techniques, you enjoy educating your patients on how to move and perform tasks in a spine healthy manner. What do these methods consist of?
So every time a patient comes to see me, we go back to basic anatomy. I show them models of their spine, show them what their vertebrae are, what are their functions, what are the discs, what do they do, and I show them videos and give them apps that have been developed by other doctors to assist them in their day-to-day performance. And my take-home point is I always want all my patients to do proper lifting mechanics, and it's always important to exercise. Number one goal is you build a strong core, you have less chances to see me in the future. So work on your abs, getting that six pack is very important.
Absolutely. And going to a chiropractor myself, one of the things he tell me, like, so basic, he says never just get up in the bed, always turn to your side and push up,
Yes.
which will help with your spine. Or like you said, even picking up something, start from your legs, bending and pulling up.
Yes.
Those are just like simple techniques that people don't realize it damages their backs
Exactly.
over time. Yeah, absolutely. And so what ways can one who may not already have those spinal injuries help preserve their joints to reduce any future problems?
Well, basic things is it goes back to the fundamentals, trying to be within the appropriate weight range, not being overweight. That will help you, and routine and regular exercise will always help. So staying on those things and then using proper weightlifting techniques will always prevent an injury to occur, and that will prevent you from having to see a spine surgeon.
Does supplemental nutrients such as things like calcium and whatnot, can people still take those to still help their bones and their joints?
It's very important for all of us, especially for women in their premenopausal period. Women lose more calcium than men, and they will definitely need more calcium. But supplements, calcium, vitamin C, vitamin D, all those supplements are really good. And unfortunately, we don't consume the appropriate amount or the right doses of calcium or multivitamins. So it's always good to take your vitamins and stay on top of that, and that should help prevent injuries.
Absolutely. And so you also provide an amazing educational blog on your website, and one that you mentioned was, how does stem cell therapy relieve joint pain?
So stem cell is a whole new field, and I'm an avid runner, and I had an injury. I did a 10-mile race back in October and was trying to train for the Houston Marathon. Nothing could help. It was so frustrating being a medical doctor and being hurt and not knowing what to do. I had an MRI of my leg to make sure I didn't have a blood clot. It wasn't a tumor. I did so many things. Eventually, a colleague of mine injected stem cells in my calf, and that was done 2 weeks before the Houston Marathon.
So where do they get the stem cells from?
Normally, they take it doing the different sources, but they are harvested from the embryos of doing delivery. Some people donate the embryos. Some of them they take small samples and they grow them up in the lab. So those stem cells, or they can take your own stem cells from it. You can get your own, harvest your own stem cells and then replace them back in your body. So before the stem cells differentiate into different cells, mesenchymal cells, they can take them at an early stage, inject them in your body, and then they differentiate into different stuff, into muscles, all those things. So when I got the stem cells, that my calf pain went completely in a week. I had no pain, and I was able to complete the Houston Marathon. So there are a lot of advances still coming out, and sometimes some of them are not completely FDA approved, but I think in the next 10 years, what they're doing with stem cells is amazing, and it will really change your way we practice medicine.
And you also have another blog discussing pinched nerves. What are some common conditions that actually cause the pinched nerves as well?
So what happens, you have let's start in your neck. You have your spinal cord, and there are nerve roots that come out from the spinal cord, and they go through openings called foramen. And those openings are openings in the bony canal that protects the nerve as it exit from your spinal cord towards your arms. And what the most common cause is a ruptured disc hits that nerve, and you wake up one morning with pain in your neck. They may start having numbness and tingling in your fingers, and that progresses to coming on and off to constant pain, numbness. Eventually, you may have weakness in that arm. And typically if on the left side of your arm, people are afraid that they're having a heart attack, they go to the ER, they do all these tests, do an EKG, like, oh, it's not your heart, it's something else, and then they find out that they can get an MRI. Then you see the ruptured disc in your neck that causes those symptoms.
Is that the same as like when people say they have like a crick in their neck?
Most of the time, a crick in the neck is just a muscle strain. So when you have a pinched nerve, it's more like an electric shock that leaves your neck and goes down your arm.
Okay. And also, how can chronic neck pain be a signal of additional health concerns?
So typically, most people have chronic neck pain. First of all, you're always worried, is it an infection? The worst case scenario is a tumor. And then you have pain that is pain at night. If you have constant pain worse at night, it's always a red flag that it could be some kind of it's an ominous sign. So you always want to have that checked out.
Absolutely. And lastly, what are some of the benefits of the laser spine surgery that you mentioned earlier, and what all does that entail?
So basically, with laser spine surgery, you perform the surgery through a smaller incision, then you use the laser to burn down and the tissues boarding this that could be pinching on the nerve. But the advances of that is that you are doing the surgery through a smaller incision. Recovery is faster, and patients are able to get back to their daily life at a shorter period of time.
Are they still doing the technique where they put, I guess, like the metal rods down the spine?
Yes, it's still, I mean, we do that for people who have scoliosis, curvature in their back. We try to put screws and rods to straighten their back. Then people have something called spondylolisthesis, when the two bones are slipped out of alignment. We put the bones back in place and use screws and rods to hold that together.
Absolutely. Well, you gave us so much information today. Is there anything additional that you want our listeners to know in regards to just taking care of their health and their body and their spine, and just anything to pay attention to for the future?
Basically, exercise is really key.
So simple, exercise, something we don't like to do. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. And before you leave, just let our audience know more about how they can contact you, learn more about your practice, and find you on social media or our website.
You can Google us. We have a presence. My website is www.premierspineinstitute.com, all one word. You can call our office number from our website, and we're available. I'm available 24/7. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, we highlight your excellence in the community for all you do, especially your Black excellence across the African diaspora. And we do appreciate your intelligence as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of The Blackout, where we always shine a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture with your girl Tequila on Afro Vibes Radio. Make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at The Blackout AVR. And to stay up to date on our previous discussions and future events, please visit Afro Vibes Facebook and Instagram at Afro Vibes Radio, Twitter at Afro Vibes Radio with an S, and lastly, listen to us online at www.afrovibesradio.com or simply download the Afro Vibes Radio app on the Apple or Google Play Store.